We got tropical storm warnings all the way from Houston, Texas down to Matamoros ahead of Tropical Depression 8, soon to be HANNA. We are also watching Tropical Storm Gonzalo as it trucks its way across the Atlantic, slowly gaining momentum, getting very close to a Category 1 hurricane. And if we're going to get into letter I, we may as well look at this chart now because according to the National Hurricane Center, the west coast of Africa is producing another wave, which is looking like it's going to produce another cyclone. Here we go. Welcome back, my friends. July 23rd, 2024, 4:48 p.m. And first, we are taking a look at Tropical Depression 8, which is soon to be HANNA. We are about 5 to 7 miles per hour of sustained winds off of this being a tropical storm. Again, this is the one sitting in the Gulf right here, making its way. It's kind of trucking to the west a little bit. Like I said, the tropical storm warnings are all the way from Houston to Matamoros, which is in that southern tip of Texas, right before the Mexican border. And while looking at this storm, we can already see we got some significant rain bands in that counterclockwise motion, some of them already making it up to parts of Louisiana and the eastern part of Texas. It's hard to see with this chart here, but if you take a look, the central area of this storm is slowly tracking to the west and to the north. So this thing is going to be coming down towards the Texas area a little more, not so much missing Louisiana, but more so of a landfall in the Texas area. And we can see that here by looking at our time frame. By Friday, the 7 p.m. time around Friday, we're going to be about 100 miles off the coast of Texas. So between Friday night and Saturday morning, as you can see here, is going to be when we're really going to see where this thing is going to hit as far as the coastal flooding, what areas may be evacuated. We have had evacuations in the past, over tropical storms. Although this is not a tropical storm yet, you can see this letter S here. It's expected to make that transfer possibly in the next couple hours. If not, they're saying about 12 hours from now before we can call this tropical storm HANNA. And while we look at the spaghetti plots for this storm, we can kind of see things tightening up a little bit. Still a pretty broad area of Texas that is expecting this storm. The tropical storm warning is going from Houston to Matamoros, as I said. But as the hours pass at this point, not days, but hours, you're going to start seeing these spaghetti plots tighten up. And the same thing will go with Gonzalo as well as we start approaching more and more land with that storm. But again, coastal flooding, lots of things like that. Heavy winds, 50 to 60 mile an hour winds if this thing does reach tropical storm force. We will be talking about that in the near future, potentially in the next 12 or so hours. But on to Gonzalo for now. And things are certainly getting interesting with this storm as we are getting a new set of plots as well that takes this anywhere from Cancun, Mexico to Cuba, over Cuba into South Florida, everywhere in the Gulf and basically everywhere in between there. What we need to really focus on is the cone of uncertainty, which right now would extend all the way from Mexico to Florida into the Gulf. A lot of room for change with this storm, but the fact is that this storm is very close to being a Category 1. This will be our first legit hurricane of the Atlantic season. For those of you that have been following along, we're on our 8th storm, which would be HANNA. So letter G is our 7th storm. This is our 7th straight tropical depression turned tropical storm. And now we are looking at the possibility of our first hurricane. And while we focus in on the radar loop of this storm, don't be surprised or tricked by the sight of this storm. I know it looks like the storm in the Gulf is actually producing more than this storm is right now. The thing with Gonzalo is it's actually a small scale storm, which means it's on the smaller side, not as far as wind speeds or power, but just the actual size of the storm itself. It is trying to assemble itself. We're getting that counterclockwise rotation back. And again, we're about 7 to 8 miles off of that Category 1 status. Watching Gonzalo today, I've seen the actual wind speed. You can see in the red box here below my mouse, it says 60 miles per hour. It's actually fluctuated between 65, back to 60, went to 65, and then back to 60 again. So we could see some fluctuation with that. Again, once it reaches that 74 mile an hour mark, that's when it'll be considered a Category 1. Also notice the speed at which it's moving, 13 miles per hour. That's a step up from the 8 miles per hour over the last couple days we've been seeing it travel. Now, as far as the spaghetti plots go, again, this is very important. We are getting different opinions about whether this storm is going to stay a Category 1, possibly reach Category 2, or weaken again. But the main thing to look at is how much time this thing is over water. Because we all know that where the storm is now compared to where it's going, it's nothing but warm water in its path. So the only thing that would let this storm actually weaken would be the Sahara dust, a change in the wind currents around it, which kind of change every couple hours or so, because we need to check these charts. There's a 5 o'clock update coming up from the National Hurricane Center where we should get more information, but I wanted to get this to you out first before they make the changes so we can actually look at these changes and see what they do from their end. But again, the spaghetti plots are coming together. It's keeping it in the warm water, and once we get closer to the Gulf by Sunday or Monday, that's when things are really going to get interesting with this storm. I will be doing reports on the smaller islands that are going to get hit by this, whether or not we get into the Dominican Republic and Haiti area. It looks like it's going to be clear of Puerto Rico, and then we'll be talking about Cuba, possibly Cancun, Mexico, if we get any of those shooting the gap type situations. But nonetheless, the Gulf is looking like it's a pretty significant target right now for this storm. And again, there's plenty of time to go, so I'm not making any predictions as far as that goes, but the warnings definitely need to be out there for those that live in the Gulf. And if you guys aren't tired of looking at charts yet, we can kind of see here a little bit of an estimation of when this thing may hit Category 1 status. Again, this could fluctuate. This could happen sooner or later, but right now we have it marked as around 2 a.m. Saturday, the early hours of Saturday morning. We got that H symbol, which means hurricane, right as it makes it towards the Lesser Antilles Islands here. And then we got to talk about the Caribbean type stuff and the water that's going to affect this storm and where it's going to go from there. And on top of that, guys, I'm not going to get into it too much, but we do have another invest, 20% chance of cyclone formation coming off the west coast of Africa. As long as we get breaks in this sand, guys, expect to see these invests come and go pretty frequently. Some of these come and go, they don't become anything, but a lot of times when we start seeing this pattern of wave after wave after wave, you can go back to 2017 where every single week we had a major hurricane for 10 weeks in a row. So we're going to be getting into some interesting stuff. Sorry about all the charts this time. I wish I had more visuals for you guys to look at, but this information is just as important as the visuals as you can see here. So once again, guys, we got Tropical Depression 8, more than likely will be HANNA within the next couple hours by the time it makes landfall in Texas, anywhere from Houston to Matamoros. And then we got Gonzalo, and we got another invest on its way in, plus another wave after that already making its way across Africa. So there's plenty to talk about as we get into the more intense part of hurricane season. And keep in mind, we have not even reached August, September, or October yet, which are the busiest months by far for the hurricane season. Guys, thank you so much for being tuned. Sorry for the late video today. The next couple of videos will be honing in on these storms individually and what to expect in whatever area you live in if you're in the path of these storms. Thank you guys so much. I will be talking to you soon. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.